We're here with Julian. You already saw his presentation. We can talk a lot about his successes like XCOM, or maybe the one that's most dear to me, Rebel Star.
Really?
Yeah, the
That's going
reboot,
back a long
the
way.
reboot for Game Boy Advance. Yeah, but I'm not really that interested about to talk about the successes, because that's something that's been talked about quite a lot. I'm interested to talk with you about your failures, and what's your favorite failures?
Failures. That is a very. I've never been asked such a question. It's interesting. I've had many game pitches which were failures, but it's very rare for me to actually work on a game which has been a failure. There were several games I worked at Ubisoft which were cancelled, but I wouldn't regard those as being terribly interesting, to be honest. There was one actually where I may want to talk about, because it was something that is an interesting story. It's a game called Ozen, and it was about a device that you attach to your finger to take your heart rate, and it was attached to the Nintendo DS, and you had to play games, but it measured your heart rate variability. And we were doing the software here in Sofia for this. We designed some very interesting little mini games that fed your heart rate variability into the game itself. But the problem is the hardware didn't work very well, and the project was abandoned. So that was maybe one of the things which could have been interesting, but it just didn't work. But it wasn't my idea in the first place, so I wasn't that upset about it. Is there any other big failure? I can't really think of anything.
Maybe some pitches that were not accepted.
There were pitches. I did a pitch for a Judge Dredd game, for example, which was close to my heart, because I was a big fan of Judge Dredd when comics came out many, many years ago. That would have been really cool. It's a shame that didn't happen. But I have done many pitches which didn't really work out. But actually, in terms of game development, there's fortunately very little that I worked on which didn't see the light of day, which is good, I guess.
And what's the most informative, maybe not a failure as a project, but your most informative failed idea, something that taught you a lot? That's a really difficult question. I can't think of anything. A failed idea. I honestly don't know that any of them taught me a lot, to be honest. Oh.
In terms of failed ideas, even the Judge Dredd one, which would have been a really cool idea had it worked out. It was still very much an XCOM style game, actually. I think there were, again, there were many pitches that I made to publishers which didn't get very far.
Maybe a specific mechanic, maybe level design choice that didn't work out.
Well, I can give one example which may be interesting. So back in 1998, we made a game called Magic and Mayhem, which was like a real-time strategy game. It has some similarities with Chip and Claws, actually. But you control the main character, which is a wizard. And you summoned all kinds of animals, cast all kinds of spells. You controlled these places of power, you're called, to get your resource mana. But we wanted to make it more of a role-playing game. So we had lots of progression mechanics in the game, but our publisher at the time, which was Virgin Interactive, just flatly told us, look, role-playing games don't sell. You need to make it more like an RTS, less like a role-playing game. But this was very shortly before Baldur's Gate came out, for example, which completely reignited the role-playing game market. So these kind of things are irritating when publishers say to you, well, RPGs don't sell. Obviously, they're wrong. Another case might be Microprose. They told us horror games don't sell, because we had a Lovecraftian style pitch at one point, which again using XCOM style, and I said, no, you can't make this because horror games don't sell.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. Thank you for your answers.
Thank you. Well, you asked some very difficult questions.
I guess it's something that no one asks.
Yeah, exactly.
It
made me think, I must admit.